Hello and welcome to the Uncultured Nerd Show. My name is Maven. I am an extremely uncultured nerd who just loves to soak into nostalgia to distract myself from the ever-approaching nightmare of responsibility that is adulthood. But hey, in between writing resumes and cover letters for literally dozens of jobs, I've needed something relatively light and brainless to de-stress to. And if anyone has seen my channel in the past month, you know what that show is. Yes, I have been watching one of my mother's favorite childhood shows, The Flintstones. And it's been a journey. The humor of the show is quite dated, but in a cute sort of way. Most of the time I did skip over some of the more collar-tugging episodes. But overall, the show has honestly been a perfect, harmless experience which has given me and my mother something to talk about. But wait, this is Childhood Rewind, and I never watched anything Flintstones related as a child, so why exactly am I talking about this? Well, in the third season, there appeared two very familiar characters who sparked memories of a certain VHS which I still have in my collection.
Have fun the holiday jolly day tour bus!
This is a bit different from other childhood rewinds because although this film was a big part of my childhood, I have also watched it many times through my teen and early adult years. However, there are a few reasons why I want to talk about it. One is that watching the Flintstones got me feeling very nostalgic for the old Hanna Barbera animation style. But the big one is that this is a very interesting case of nostalgia I have for this film. All the other childhood rewinds I've done have been films I haven't watched in years and that I can now judge through adult eyes. Nostalgia does play a little part in how I view them, but overall my opinion of them is based on their legitimate quality or lack thereof. With Yogi Bear, it's different. Cause I know this movie is not good. And I know if this was the first time I was watching it, I wouldn't be able to get through the first 10 minutes. But I absolutely love this film. And it is based on absolutely nothing but purebred nostalgia. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Yogi Bear and the Magical Flight of the Spruce Goose with this episode's Unhinged Recap! Yogi and the crew are on their holiday jolly day tour going to see the Spruce Goose, which is in real life the largest plane ever built. So big that Yogi can't even make it up to the observation deck, but luckily they find a side entrance. Unluckily, once the door is shut, there does not seem to be a way out. Augie Doggy finds the cockpit, and after a few buttons are pressed, the Goose comes to life and off they go! After some gallivanting about in the clouds, the group hears about a group of stranded animals in the South Pole and head down there to save them. On the way, they help a baby pelican and find another lost passenger. This is Bernice, whose parents somehow didn't notice she's been missing and left without her. Once they get to the North Pole, the plane does its magic thing and breaks through the ice, letting all the animals free. After saving another group of penguins from some sharks, the group takes off again and hear a report of more stranded animals who have been abandoned on a ship by poachers. No one knows how to find them, so Yogi lets the plane do its thing, and wouldn't you know it, there's the boat! After a few unsuccessful attempts to tow the boat, everyone claps for Tinkerbell and the magic doors let the animals into the plane. The group finds an island to drop the animals off on, and wouldn't you know it, their old friend the Dread Baron and Mumbly have crash landed and they want to come too, but the group won't let them until the Dread Baron proves he's reformed, so he brings an egg back to the mountain nest and is let on board. Unfortunately, he lives up to his name and takes over the plane almost immediately, changing routes to another island which is apparently full of gold. Once they land, they meet some unfortunate signs of the time, and the Baron loads up the plane with gold. Yogi and the others are still held captive, but after a few fumbled escape attempts, it appears the mountain the plane landed on is actually a volcano, and it is ready to erupt! Everyone runs to the plane, but it's too heavy to fly, so the gold goes out the window along with the Baron and Mumbly, and the Goose lifts off no problem. Back in California, Yogi lets the Goose do its thing, and everyone wakes up back where they started with seemingly only a few hours having passed. Bernice is picked up by her parents, and the jolly holiday tour starts back up to go on another adventure. So that is Yogi Bear and the Magical Flight of the Spruce Goose. It's not good. The animation is cheap, it's mostly not funny, and absolutely nothing about it makes any sense. But I love it. I can watch this thing on repeat 24/7 and never get tired of it. Now, I know exactly why this is, but before we get to that, there are some things I genuinely think are okay in this thing. First, my favorite bit is by far these two aliens who keep trying to take over parts of the world and are always foiled by the Spruce Goose. This bit has absolutely no impact on the film and could easily be left out, but their voices are actually pretty funny, and the disguises they put on to blend in with Earthlings are a classic punchline, but done pretty well. Aside from the aliens, the main characters are genuinely fun. This was a TV special, which most likely assumed the viewer already knew the characters before going in, so there is pretty much no setup. I mean, the Dread Baron is introduced without any backstory explanation except that he knew the Yogi group and they know he's evil. And as a kid, this was a little confusing because this was the only piece of Yogi Bear content I had ever ever watched. I'd never even heard of these characters before I watched this thing, but all the main relationships and character types are established very well within the first few minutes. It's kind of like the Looney Tunes characters. They are very one-note and have only a couple character traits, but they are very easily identifiable. By far my favorite has to be Snagglepuss. His jokes aren't even that funny, but my goodness, that voice and the delivery can make anything hilarious. Speaking of voices, out of the 7 main group members, 5 are voiced by legendary actor Daws Butler, and it is as close to seamless as it gets. The voices aren't even that different, but I can't hear the same guy in any of them. I know Mel Blanc is the most well-known actor of that classic cartoon era, but my goodness, people, give Daws Butler some more love because he is absolutely incredible. And another thing I just love about this film is how high these writers must have been. I mean, who decided to let Yogi Bear fly a plane that actually existed, make it magic for no reason, use that magic as a deus ex machina at every problem the group comes across, and go on an adventure across the world saving animals who are somehow trapped and cannot be found, yet there is also a camera crew capturing TV footage while 2 aliens try to invade New Jersey. I mean, there is absolutely no logic to this thing whatsoever. Also, what kind of parents don't notice their kid is gone and leave without them? It seemed like the trip was several days, but they're back in a few hours. How was that statue of the Baron already built before he got there? If the aliens are saying they're going to invade New Jersey, why do they keep ending up where the Goose is? How are any of these animals going to survive on an island the size of a football field? I mean, all these animals are from different ecosystems. How are they going to survive in a tropical climate? But you know what? None of that matters. It makes 0 sense, but it doesn't matter. And here's where we come to the number 1 reason I love this film. Watching it just makes me feel safe. When exams are coming up or work is really stressing me out, whatever the reason, this is what I watch when I really need something to comfort me and no one else is around. And without fail, it always makes me feel better. Like I said earlier, I'm well aware my love for this film is based purely around nostalgia, but that nostalgia comes from a very specific place, my grandfather's house. Whenever we visited my grandparents' house when I was growing up, we had a choice of about 9 VHS tapes, which I will list now. Cinderella 2, Joe to the Jungle, Really Wild Animals, Wonder Down Under, Really Wild Animals, Swinging Safari, The Book of Pooh, Stories from the Heart, The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Volume 2, Cowboy Pooh, Gulliver's Travels, which I never watched because it looks scary, and the one we watched the most, Yogi Bear and the Magical Flight of the Spruce Goose. Watching this film puts me back in my 10-year-old brain, sitting on the relatively safe homemade bunk beds my grandfather built, wrapped in one of my grandmother's hand-sewn quilts, and eating probably my 10th ice cream sandwich of the day. That feeling of complete and total comfort without any worry or care about the future, just the coziness of the house and the silliness of the cartoon, is what I feel every time I watch this film. It doesn't have to make sense. All it needed to do was make me feel like everything was going to be all right. And that's what it still continues to do. Well, that got a little personal, but it's pretty amazing the power of nostalgia. Sure, it can be unhealthy to live only in the past and exist on memories of quote-unquote the good old days, but a little of that feeling from time to time, which gets you through some difficult moments, I think is pretty awesome. And that's about it for this episode of Childhood Rewind. A bit of a different vibe, but I had fun, and for all my fellow freaks out there, do you have your own version of Yogi Bear and the Magical Flight of the Spruce Goose? The film that you know is not good, but just makes you feel like everything will be alright? Let me know, and maybe I'll try to check them out. Thank you so much to all my fellow freaks for watching, and I'll see you next time with something else. See y'all later.